excited to be here. So I am on sabbatical this semester, which means that I don't have to be in Eastern Michigan teaching. I actually have this semester to be here researching. So this is the first time I've been able to be here, and I'm so excited to participate in the Tarantula Fest, as well as tell you a little bit about what I'm learning. So again, I just started, so my students have been here before, and I'll talk about some of the things that they have learned, and then I'll add to it with what I have been learning. I will say that there is not a huge amount of aggression between the animals. The females, if they don't want to come out, and they actually don't. They sit in their burrows, they're pretty good, and they just kind of plug up the whole entrance of the burrow and go, no. So there isn't as much aggression. There is actually very little sexual cannibalism. I'm certain that it helps, but I actually haven't seen a lot of it. So there's really a lot that we don't know, and we do hear things about it, and I do think some of it, in the pet trade, when you're mating animals, very often when you're putting them together, the cues aren't there to let them know, this is who you're going to be encountering a female soon. Whereas, in the natural environments, those cues are there, and so sometimes what you see in a captive environment can be very different from what we see. And just to give you an idea, so I'm going to talk a little bit. So I'm going to start off with just what I know about tarantulas from fieldwork, but the fieldwork's not from here, because most of my previous studies have been elsewhere. And then I'll talk specifically about what we have found with the tarantulas in Colorado, and still some of the things that we're trying to find out. So, I think next one. Okay, so, just general stuff again. Paula mentioned, we have the males and females. The males tend to be smaller. They typically tend to be bigger. The abdomens are, the reason for the big abdomen, the bigger the abdomen, the more eggs you can have. And these females live for very, very long, many years. And so as a result, as they continue to grow, they get bigger, which means that as they get older, they can also have more eggs. These males are very short-lived. They reach, and again, short-lived in terms of compared to the females. This is still incredibly long-lived for spiders. So we think, and again, this is a little bit arm-waving, because as of yet, I have not got any students to stay with me for 7 to 8 years to raise a whole egg sac to know. And so, we actually have very little information on this. And so when I'm finding them in the field, I don't know how old they are. And so, this is arm-waving what we think is happening. But, and the other thing that to think about when you're seeing these males, so for 6 to 7 years, these males and females as juveniles have been sitting in burrows, and then we get this mating season where the males reach sexual maturity. So we've had these couch potatoes, and then they're sitting in their burrows, they're really not doing much. And then all of a sudden, you're seeing them on the roads. Physiologically, can you imagine, it's like you getting up today and running a marathon. I mean, how many people could do that? Certainly not me. So, there's a lot that we don't know, and there have to be things changing physiologically, preparing these males for however far they're walking. Even if it's not that far for a little animal, it's still a long distance. And so some very interesting things to be thinking about when you're seeing these males out there. Not only is it physiologically taxing, but they've gone from a very protective environment. They've got a burrow. They can retreat into this burrow, get away from something that that may be coming after them. They can moderate temperatures by moving up and down in that burrow, and now they're out in the open. All types of things are there. The things are eating them. It's hot. They've got to find a place for the hot part of the day. They have to encounter these females who, you've got to be careful, because both these have fangs. You need to be careful how you're encountering them. It's really interesting. So, thinking about what these males are dealing with is really interesting. Okay, so what I have done and what I'm doing this year is I am tracking them. So the only way to really get some idea of how far they're moving is I have to be able to follow individuals. And so this is how we put on the radio tags, and this is just to give you some idea of the sizes of my radio tags. And just to give you an idea of just how easy to work with. I need to weigh these animals, I put them on the scale. He sits on the scale for me. I get his weight, and then I just need to open up that cephalothorax. I'm using super glue. super glue that on. And so, you know, at the end, the life of my radio tags is about 28 days, and it just pops off. It's attached to the hairs, and so it does leave a bald spot, but it doesn't harm the animal, and so I can pull it off pretty readily. And so, just to give you some idea, some of the work that I've done, I worked in Texas. And so this is what I know about my tarantulas in Texas. And this was actually done with one of my grad students here. And so he was there for 2 years, 2004 and 2005. And so this is rate, the number of meters per day. So, you know, so 300 meters per day is how far some of these animals were moving. The other thing to note is that, you know, there's a difference seasonally. And you know, we only find this out, but we need long-term studies because we go out there and we get just, you know, a little bit of data and we don't know. It turns out that when he was out there, the 1 year was very dry. And so there was less vegetation and these animals could move further. And so, you know, when you see them walking across the road, they can move really fast. There's nothing to impede them. You see them hit the grass, and then suddenly it's up the grass and down the grass. So when there was a wetter year, they actually couldn't move as far. So we have some idea of how far they are moving. Let's see what else. And this is Todd, you can't really see. So this is, he's got the antenna up. He was the one who worked with me, and he just visited me here just to see the tarantulas out here. Then I actually also looked in Mexico. And so once again, and I'll show these two together. Look at the difference. So now, instead of 300, you know, my max, and there's only one individual who's going 75 meters per day. And so this is, you know, this is all we know. I have information on 2 species. I also know that, you know, there's a seasonal difference as well. But so I don't know. I don't know about the Colorado tarantulas. I don't have enough data yet to tell you where they are fitting in, but I'm leaning towards not as far as those Texas males. Don't have an answer for why that may be, just don't have enough information. So yeah, this is it. This is all that we know. When you see those males walking, you don't know. How phenomenal. Big animals, everybody knows tarantulas, and we don't know basic things about what these animals are doing. And this is just to give you an idea of total distance that these males will cover. Once again, big difference in years, so that was related to the season. You know, this is also my limitations. How long, what is my battery life? This is assuming that nobody picks off my tarantulas somewhere along the way. You know, they don't get driven over. Lots of things that can impact them. Let's see what else. And so this is the type of thing that happens. Any suggestions? I don't know. You know, we had the radio tag, and you follow the radio tagging, and there's your tarantula. I don't know. Why are the legs gone? What's nutritionally in those legs? Wouldn't you eat the body? So yeah, so you know, we have lots of, once again, more questions. I don't know what to make of this. This is a little bit, again, from Todd's study. You know, some things that we did know. So by the end of the season, you know, and again, we've got differences between the years. We had some that were alive. We also have, you know, equipment's always a problem. Then we have some that, you know, you go out there the one day, the next day it's gone. Once again, I have no idea. Did something eat it, carry it outside of my range? You know, and we walk, you know, really try and find it, it's just gone. So I don't know what that one is. We also had a bunch that ended up in wood rat middens. So, you know, a place to hide. Somebody took them in there to keep them for later. Not necessarily certain. Then we had, you know, like that previous one, something got it. We don't actually know what exactly it was. And then we also had, of course, our Pepsis wasp. And so, but note, seasonally, how different that can be. So 1 year, there were lots of the Pepsis wasps, the tarantula hawk wasps, calling off his tarantulas. And you know, one of the problems that they also took his radio tag tarantulas. Those radio tags, I forgot to mention, that's $200 walking around on that tarantula. And so, you know, they would take them to these wood rat bins, and he would have to dig them out. You know, and you go out to the grasslands and see how how easy it is to dig, and you're trying to be careful because your tarantula is somewhere in there. You know, you've got that beep, and you know it's somewhere in there. It's really crazy. So yeah. So this is what we know. I know very little about what's happening out here. I have already had some tags go missing, and once again, I just completely. I don't know. I cannot find them anywhere. I have also had one. I'm pretty sure that got trampled by a cow. So you know. So yeah. So this is definitely happening as we speak. The other thing that I have also looked at is I have looked at the females and what is happening with the females that are in their burrows. And so this is a little difficult to see, but they're babies here. So this was a group in Mexico, and you can see the babies are coming out, and so this is typical hunting. So they are sit-and-wait predators, so they sit at the entrance to the burrow, and they are waiting for stuff to come by that they can grab, and they will grab anything that they are large enough to grab. So they are pretty active predators, but they don't go very far from their burrows. This was just, and again, there is so little known about these babies. So in this case, the one morning I was watching, and suddenly, you know, I've been seeing maybe 10 little babies coming out. I knew they were there, and then all of a sudden there's these hordes of little babies coming out. And next one. And it turns out that they leave the burrow in a line. How crazy is that? You know, and then I'm just imagining there's a big frog or toad sitting here with an open mouth. Why would you do that? Why is that evolution? How did that evolve? I don't have an answer. Again, very little known about this, very few publications. I think we have, let's hit the video. Let's go. Oh, it's on the screen. Oh, maybe it's on the, okay.
No, we can cut this video. How do I turn off?
Go.
Yes, user error.
There, okay, yeah, thank you. That was great. Okay, so isn't that just cute? So, you know, of course, when this happened, I wasn't expecting this because I'd been seeing them in the burrows. And so, you know, my husband's running back to grab the camera, and we're trying to do all of this completely unexpectedly. And then every now and again, somebody goes in a different direction. You know, so we watched this for a bit, and then, so eventually this large, what started off as a large string got smaller and smaller, and then they just kind of disappeared in the vegetation. But I don't have a good explanation for why this would be the advantageous way to disperse when you've got hundreds of little babies. But they do it. So, yeah, we go to the next one. So the interesting thing is, although I have been the only one to actually see this and report this, other people have seen these lines of babies. Not necessarily seeing them coming out of the burrows, which I was lucky enough to see, but they'll be walking along and there's a line of babies. So, you know, it's happened. And again, you know, I mentioned, look how many species we have this known for. You know, we've got it's for 2 species. So we think this is happening, and I'll talk a little bit about what I've been seeing in Colorado, but you know, some of these are just crazy. So now I'm going to transition. So what have we been working on? And so I'll start with some of my students' work and then talk more about what I am finding this year. So obviously we are really excited to be here. The populations here are just marvelous. We're working out at the Comanche National Grasslands. And we're working with the Colorado brown tarantula, and so just, you know, a marvelous animal and just really large numbers of animals. And so we're spending a lot of time with them. I'm learning a little bit about what they are feeding on. And again, the interesting thing, this is a very wide range for tarantulas. And so because of this, thinking about that range across which they are found, the environment can be very different. So, just thinking physiologically how much variation there could be within this. The other thing that's interesting is that in Colorado, we are at the northernmost edge. So again, they can be very different. In other studies that are looking at what we call edge populations, they can be, both morphologically and physiologically, different from the core populations. They've been living there for a while. These guys, and how variable the temperatures can be. If you're slightly further south, there's maybe not such a big range of temperatures. So, there can be big differences in what these animals are dealing with. So just really interesting group to be working with. And, it's really interesting to see how much interest there has been just over the years, how this is built. And, some of that, and the interesting thing is also, if you go back, seeing how the wording has changed is just so interesting. And so that in itself is something worth tracking, and just, and I really appreciate all that has been done in La Junta, and just the enthusiasm that is coming out of here to help change some of that narrative. So the first student I'm going to talk about is Dallas, and some of the work that he did. So he completed his research in 2022, and his thesis is published. And so he was out here at the same time as I am. So he was looking at the males, and one of the things that he was looking at was how the environment can impact the activity of these males. So he was looking at temperature and humidity, and what he was seeing very often is that he would see increases in activity after some type of cold spell. And just, you were here last week, I think the high was 69. We're back up to 90. So, so there are these dips throughout the season, and then there are sudden increases, and so he was seeing an increase in the male tarantulas after these periods. Very often associated with these dips in temperature, these are also storms coming through. So there is also an increase in humidity at this time. Out on the grasslands, the tarantulas within their burrows, after we got some pretty heavy rains out there, and some of the burrows had been plugged with mud. The tarantulas had streaks all down their backs from where mud had come in. So with some of the increased activity also, they just get washed out of burrows. Just interesting to think about. So, there are some other things that I'm interested in, and some of these changes may be related not only to temperature, but humidity may play a role as well. And then the other thing that he was looking at, he looked across 3 different habitats within the grasslands. And so he had one that had high cholla presence, and then one where there was a lot of bare ground, and then areas where there was much higher grass. And he tended to find more tarantulas in area with a lot of the cholla. These are also areas that tend to be more cattle grazed. So again, I have all of these predictors. I don't necessarily know why. I will tell you that when I am watching tarantulas move around, this is tough to walk through. Most of the time, it's really fun watching them. So, it's like they're swimming and they pop the grass blades and kind of move their body through, or they're literally going up and down. It takes them forever to get anywhere. So does this impact, their ability to move into these areas? Maybe this actually doesn't provide enough cover for them. It gets pretty hot out here. So maybe this is just, so many things that, I can tell you some of the things I found, but I don't always have explanations for why we are seeing it. So more work to be done. And then Bradley was my other student that was out here, and he was here during the female reproductive season. So he was monitoring the burrows, he was looking to see activities of the females, and so saw a lot of sunrises and sunsets. And really what he was interested in is when these animals are out. And so, here you can't see anything in the burrow. Here, if you look, there's just a little face starting to come out. Then the animal is at the burrow entrance and then sometimes fully out. And so he was looking, time of day, does this impact, who is out, and also who the animals are. So one of the things he was looking at was the difference between females that had egg sacs versus those that didn't. So would they stay in their burrows? Were they guarding those egg sacs? Versus females that didn't have egg sacs, were they much more likely to be out feeding, preparing for the mating season, things along those lines. And so it was really cool. So one of the things that he really started was when he came out, he got an endoscope camera, which again, nowadays they're really popular. Back in the day when I was doing this, I didn't have one. But they're really easy to use now. And so we were able to find more females with egg sacs because we could actually look into the burrow. These females are protective. They will keep that egg sac, and if you put that endoscope camera down there, they will very often drop the egg sac and actually come up to the camera to defend it. So they can be pretty protective. So most of if you look into the burrow, sometimes you could see it, but sometimes not. But with that endoscope camera, we really could see who had the egg sac. So that was really fun. And then, once again, we got to see the babies. So just marvelous. You just see these hordes of little babies in there. Once again, I love that endoscope camera, but it's not very sharp, so I can't dig a good count. But it was just marvelous to see these. And once again, mom would sometimes be at the bottom, and that camera would come in, and she'd come up to the top and just make sure that everything was okay. So it was really great to see these. And really what we were looking for was that dispersal. Can we see when that dispersal is happening? Because once again, when does it happen? So I know these babies are in the burrow, but I've got this short time of seeing them come out, and if I'm not there 24 hours a day checking on them, how do I find out? And so, we didn't get it right. We did miss it. So he never actually saw them leaving directly from the burrows. He did see a little scatter of these babies, but not as clear lines that I've seen with some of the other species. So once again, we've got just this little bit of data. I don't know if this is, what's happening with everybody or just with some of the ones that we saw. This year, this is what I saw. And once again, it was one animal. I had several animals that I knew had babies when I got here, and I just happened to be walking past at the right time the one night, and once again saw them leaving from mom's burrow and then starting that, but they're not as tidy lines as I'd seen with the other species that I'm working with. So I think, and while this was happening, there were some little guys, and I do have a pointer, sorry, I can use the pointer. There were some little guys going out the back as well. So, so it was just interesting. And then once again, you think they're easy to follow, and then they just kind of separate into little single individuals and just kind of disappear into the grasses and things that are out there. So now I am here and really focusing on the males. So I still don't know what's happening with those babies. They leave the burrow. What happens for the next 7 or 8 years? We still have very little information about that. But what can we address with the males? And so here, how far are they walking? How long are they active, both seasonally and on a daily perspective? How often are they finding males? What do they do when they aren't actually out there looking? And what does this activity do to them in terms of their body condition? If they've been out for weeks on end, what does that mean physiologically? So this is my field site. So out there I have the burrows for, and again, I keep on saying female burrows, but when I put a flag next to a burrow, I have no idea. It's an animal that's living in a burrow. Is it a female? I don't actually know, because we actually cannot sex them. When the males are mature, I look for those hooks. It's not that easy to, if it's a juvenile, it's very, very difficult to tell. So we're working, Everett, wherever he is. We're trying to see if we can figure out some pheromones that will help us with the burrows tell who it is. If I had these animals in the lab, I could wait for the exoskeleton, I could look at the structures that Paula was mentioning, the epigenomes, it would be easy, but when they're out there, I don't know. So, so it is really interesting. The other thing I have been tracking though this year, I am finding egg sacs. And these egg sacs, I don't know how long they have been there, but I'm assuming that this is an indication that this is a female burrow, and so I'm finding a large number of egg sacs. I don't know that they're necessarily from this year, they could have been out there for a while, but this may tell me something about, the distribution of females in the population. This is my version of a selfie. So this is me with the telemetry, and here is the little tarantula, and he does have a tag on him. So once again, I am starting to follow these males around and trying to figure out, what distances they are traveling and what they are doing. And so this is what these little guys look like. So these males, the tags are like 0.3 grams, and these guys get around pretty well with it. And when you zoom close up, it looks really obvious, but from a distance, it can be difficult to tell that they have the tags on them. So this is a typical day. My field assistant, this is at sunrise. And so, she is pretty much fast asleep, and the little male just kind of trucks along in front of her. At some point he did actually turn, and then suddenly she woke up and he was really close to her nose, and she was just startled and got up. He didn't care, he was, and that's the great thing with these tarantulas. When you're out there looking at them, if you don't actually touch them, you can get really close. If you don't disturb them, if your boot is there, they will just kind of walk around or over it. They've got what they need to be doing, and as long as you're not trying to grab at them or disturb them too much, so she took off and was walking around him, and he just kind of kept going, so he didn't even notice the movement around him. It was really funny. And so the other thing that I'm doing, because those radio tags are $200 each, don't have a huge amount of funding. The other thing that I've been doing are these little bee markers that I've been putting, and the next one I think you get a better picture of it. So I'm capturing the males that I find at night on my field site. I bring them in, I weigh them, I get some of these measurements, and then glue that bee marker on, and then release them back where I found them. And so now when I'm wandering around, if I see males, hopefully I'm finding some of the ones that I have out there. And so when I release them, I know where I released them, and when I find them again, I know where I found them. And so I can get, even though I don't know what they've been doing in between, I can do straight line distance. So, how long I've got an idea of, if I see them again, gives me some information that's really inexpensive in a way that I can track a bunch. I currently have, I think, 170 out there with the tags. So that's really fun. Other things that I have just noticed so far. So I am seeing something about what they're eating. This one's eating a little tarantula. So, once again, and I've seen this multiple times, not just once. I see this female, she was on her way back to the burrow. What are you holding on? Yep, she was on, I don't know where this little baby, and it's not necessarily a baby, but it's a juvenile tarantula. So she had gone out. These tarantulas are actually coming out quite far from their burrows, depending on the day. And some days they are out far distances, sometimes they aren't. I don't know, again, what predicts when that happens. And I have some burrows that are pretty close to one another. I've seen some interactions between females, but I actually have never seen the cannibalism, but I think it occurs when there's a big size difference. So I think if two larger animals interact, they kind of size each other up and then separate. I've seen that for sure. But I think if it's a smaller individual, they lose the battle a lot. So, so that has some implications with, maybe that's why they move. It's far away from mom, but there are other female burrows out there. I don't know. But, they need to disperse away from these adults because they can get eaten by the adults. So this is an interesting one. Can you get this one to put to play? Oh, here, it might work. Okay, so what's the problem with this? I heard somebody say it. It's 2 males. So, it's like, so yeah, try it. Try the courtship, see what happens. It's like, oh, he's coming in, and he's getting ready to try and hook those hooks on the fangs, and the other guy's going, what? He's like, and I've seen this a couple of times. We saw it last night too. So, these animals are just these encounters, and thinking about, how these, I truly, I think these males are just, take any chance. You've lived for 8 years, this is it. If you come across something that feels a little bit like a spider, stop, do the courtship, see what happens. It really feels that way. I've seen this also at other field sites. I had a male spend half an hour courting what turned out to be a trapdoor spider. I hadn't even seen the burrow. He was doing all this courtship. I'm like, what are you doing? And finally this little trapdoor spider popped up. I think she got tired of the drumming, popped out of there, and then like 5 minutes later he wandered off. I'm like, what were you doing for half an hour? so it's just really interesting to think about, what the different evolutionary pathways for these males. So yeah, that was really funny. And this is just, early data. So just to give you some idea of weight. So I was here mid-August. So, so I only have, there's not as many animals in August, but I did find larger and smaller animals in August, but the means, the averages are about the same. And so, it'll be interesting to see as it starts to get colder if we see differences in the sizes of the animals. So this is the only real data that I'm going to show you. The rest I feel is just mostly anecdotal, just cool things that I'm seeing. And really what I'm coming out with is, I don't know a lot. It's just one season, this is just not enough. It's just giving me some ideas of how much I don't know, and we need to follow through, and we already know that things can change so much from one season to the next. So yeah, I can tell you this year potentially how far some of these males are moving. But if we have a wetter season or a drier season, it may be very, very different from one year to the next. So, just reinforcing the idea, these are marvelous animals to work with, but it can actually be really difficult to answer some of these questions. And so, I appreciate that all of you are out there. Remember that these are also very fragile animals, and they've lived a long time just for this one mating season to be going out there and hopefully passing on their genes to the next generation. So thank you. I think that's all that I have. So yeah, just thanks for some of my students. I've got one of my students is arriving, ex-students. I still claim them. One of my past students, Dallas, will be here later. I've got Sarah is visiting me at the moment. And so, this is really a big deal for us to come from Michigan. I really enjoyed, I've been here for multiple years. I've brought students and had students stay here and work at the Comanche grasslands, and the community has just been really supportive, and we have really been enjoying what we are finding out, and are really happy to share with some of the things that we have been finding. It really has been fun. And I think that's it.